I would like to give a big shout out to everybody over at Hulu, 20th Century, and Disney for absolutely no reason, because man did they mess up on not releasing this film in theaters. So Prey is a new Predator film from director Dan Trachtenberg that stars Amber Midthunder as the character Naru, who is a skilled Comanche warrior who protects her tribe from a highly evolved alien predator that hunts humans for sport while also fighting against the wilderness and dangerous colonials. And so right there, you have a pretty simple plot, kind of like how the original film from 1987 was just as simple as this movie's plot was. And yes, if you are going to be asking me the question of, is this movie better than the original, I will simply give you the answer of saying, I don't know. For me, I do need to give this film a couple of more watches to really find where I stand on this film. I need to watch it at least one time in English and then one time in the Comanche dubbed version to really get a visualization on how I truly feel about each version and where this film stacks up with that original. But I can say with full confidence that out of all the Predator films, of which I have seen them all, this for sure after one watch is easily in the top 2, no questions asked. I really like this movie, to the point where I feel as though when I do eventually watch it again, I think I'm going to end up actually loving it like I did love that original film. To this day, the original Predator from 1987 is one of my more rewatchable films. I can't tell you how many times I've put this film on in the background while doing something else, and I still always eventually stop what I'm doing to catch a scene in the film. It is simply one of the more fun films that has ever been made, and as I mentioned already, one of the more simple films from a plot perspective. And to a degree, I think Prey kind of holds up with that idea of simplicity, while also doing something a little new with the genre in terms of stuff like the action and the cinematography and just the overall idea of the fact that this is a modern take from a visualization perspective on the Predator franchise. I think if you were somebody who is new to the Predator films, you could easily watch this movie and not be confused about anything that has happened in any of the previous installments. One of the big things that really does add to that idea is that it is essentially a prequel film to every other film that has taken place since it is set almost 300 years before any of the other films. And I just really love this new take on how we can see what a Predator can go up against, especially since we are talking about following Comanche warriors who have nothing but spears and bows, and colonials who have nothing but musket guns that take 5 years to reload, and the movie does make sure to address that. And speaking of our Comanche warriors, the main one who we follow, who is of course played by the actress Amber Midthunder, who I've actually never seen in anything other than Hell or High Water, which is a film that came back out in 2016, and she is really good here in the film. She does a fantastic job portraying the type of character that she is as she comes up against the Predator and as she deals with the role of who she is in a Comanche tribe. And before I move on, I would like to make a little segment here regarding a certain segment of the internet that I've seen with regards to her character, and that it is of course the idea around her not being able to even remotely come close to giving the fight to the Predator when she has nothing but a bow and arrow and an axe, and yet in the first original film, you had military men with guns who could easily have killed him. This is the stupid thing that we tend to see on the internet nowadays with entertainment, where people tend to think that a female character simply shouldn't do anything that a man could probably do, or take on something when they've never had training. To basically put this argument to shame, immediately, I want to take you all back to a film that actually rivaled Predator, and that is the Alien movies. We all know what the main character, or at least for the couple of films that we start off the franchise, was Ellen Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver. It is so funny to me how people can be as hypocritical as possible when talking about characters like these, who by all means never had training to shoot a gun, but yet when we get to the Alien movies, she's just able to start killing all these aliens like they're nothing, without any training and without any military combat to her experience. But yet, when we get to a film like Prey, they are all over this character, and they think it's ridiculous that she could even possibly be able to defeat it or fight it. Please help me try and understand the logic there. And I love the original Alien movies. I'm only using the people on the internet who complain about this stuff and their logic to try and counter these types of movies to make it seem like they are as stupid as they are. You even look at a film like the original Predator, which by all means absolutely has its inconsistencies and continuity errors of which nobody ever looks at these days. How is it that Jesse Ventura's Blaine can get a plasma caster shot to the chest and die, but yet when Arnold's Dutch gets a shot in the chest, it is absolutely like nothing ever happened. Not even a flesh wound, of which, if you ever notice near the end of the movie, it is not even shown on his body. Like, again, please somebody help me make sense of this in these people's minds of their logic. Back in the day, you didn't have people complaining about stuff like this. They just took it for what it was and enjoyed the movie. And don't get me wrong, I love the original Predator. I am just using these people's logic to show how hypocritical they are when discussing these types of things. I will happily defend this point because to this day, I have never understood the idea that you can just get mad at something like this when we are literally talking about a piece of fictional entertainment. Nothing of what happens in this film is real life. Man or woman, I do not care who is taking on the predator. As long as you can write a well-crafted story for me to care about characters and motivations, then it simply does not matter. I seriously do not know why this is something I have to discuss in today's day and age, but guess what? Here we are. But of course, getting back to the main point, Amber is really good in the film as the character of Naru, and she really does hold herself up, especially in the very end of the movie, of which I will not give anything away, but man, is it spectacular. Another thing that was absolutely spectacular, of course, you can't do a Predator review without talking about it, is the Predator himself. Listen. For as many times as I've seen the other Predator films, including the AVP films, I don't know if I've seen a more cooler and badass Predator than this one. And honestly, just because of the Predator in this movie alone, this may be the one reason why I would say you should start with the other films first before getting to this one, because I feel like he puts every other Predator that we've seen to shame. The design is so cool. The action that he is committed to in the film is absolutely incredible to watch. And the fact that even when he's taking hits and getting beat up, he literally does not care and he keeps going. He might be more of a brute Predator than any other Predator we've ever seen in any of the films. Even the CGI on him was pretty damn good, especially for a film that did not go to theaters and is basically a streaming movie. I don't know what the budget on this film was, but if it is as small as I could assume it might be, then that is maybe some of the more better CGI I've seen in quite a long time. Now, of course, this is not to say that the movie is flawless by any means. I do think there are some points in the film where certain plot points of events kind of get brushed past a little bit and it feels a little rushed, and this movie is actually surprisingly short, coming in at around an hour and 30 minutes or a little bit more if you don't include the credits. And surprisingly enough, I probably could have used maybe 5 or 10 more minutes to kind of address a few things. And sort of similar to the original film, the beginning of the movie is a little slower than the last half is. Only the difference this time is the first half, nothing much really happens until you get to the halfway point, which is when the movie goes absolutely nuts for the rest of the runtime. The last thing I'll mention for now that I felt was honestly way too much was the colonials themselves, or the French trappers in this case. Honestly, I think they were a little bit too ridiculous and over the top when you see the movie. You'll understand why. I get why they did what they did with those characters, but I feel like it could have been toned down a little bit because you could probably tell at some points that they were cartoon villains, and that's just how I see it, but hey, I definitely think they could have toned it down a little bit. The last two things I want to talk about before we end this review is Dan Trachtenberg for being the director of this movie, and I find it so incredibly funny and cool that at the same time, how this guy not only has made the best Cloverfield movie ever, but he has also in some people's eyes probably made the best Predator film ever. I know not everybody is as on board with the Predator one as the Cloverfield film, but to those people who do think that this is the best one, I still think it's incredibly cool that he has come into those franchises and made each one's best film to a lot of people. And I think he is a really solid director who I hope after this film can get some more work to do, and just maybe he might be on for a sequel because there is a post-credit scene that gives some big hints as to what could potentially come, while also getting a subtle nod to Predator 2. If you've seen the end of that film, you'll understand why. To close off this review, I will say, as somebody who has studied marketing through college, I think it is very indicative that this movie could have been a big hit if you had released it in theaters, especially if you keep in mind a potential marketing idea around bringing back the old cast of actors from the original film who are still around and help them promote this movie while also pushing for a theatrical release. I understand that the last Predator film that came out all those years ago back in 2018 was really not good, but sometimes even a bad film can potentially lead to a really good film if you have confidence in it. I mean, come on, 20th Century, you guys put out a video on your own YouTube channel talking about that original film. There is so much ground here that could have been made if you had brought back those old cast members to help promote this film and push it for a lot of people to see, since so many people do love that original film so much. Even Jesse Ventura came out recently and said that he really liked the movie. So that's just an idea that I had to come up with in my head when thinking about this film. So who knows what the future holds for the Predator franchise, but this is a step in the right direction for it, and it basically revives it, especially since that last movie was just so bad. But guys, that's going to do it for my review of Prey, which is on Hulu right now, and you should definitely give it a watch, and with whether that be the dubbed version or the English version, give it a chance and go watch it. I really had a fun time with this movie, and I hope it gets a lot of praise in the coming days and weeks. If you've seen the film and you want to leave your thoughts down below in the comments, please do so. I want to hear what you all have to say. And if you like this review and you want to see more, be sure to hit that like button button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. You would really help me out and I would greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next review.